Sky, but the night is calling, the night's calling me. I don't wanna fight, and the city's drifting away.
Welcome everyone. I am One True Brick, coming at you with another LEGO Exo-Force review. Today we will be taking a look at the gigantic set number 8108 Mobile Devastator. I promise I won't say words like big, huge, and gigantic nearly as much as I did in the Sentai Fortress review. Real quick, this set was released in 2007. It contained 1,009 pieces, bringing it just over that 4-digit number, and retailed for around $90. Nowadays, like many other sets in this series of 2007 in particular, the value of the set has not gone up that much, so you can still expect to find it used for around $100 on eBay and Bricklink. Sealed is another story, however. Good luck finding even one of those at any price. I promise this is the last time I'm going to say it. It is an absolutely gigantic set. It is the largest moving Exo-Force set, and at the time, I believe the largest, primarily system-based LEGO set ever built. That may change in future years, but as of 2007, I believe that is still the case. Let's start by taking a look at the smaller portion of this set, the Battle in a Box battle machine, the Blazing Falcon. This machine right here. So, this set is very similar in build to the previous human battle machines earlier this year. The Blade Titan, Sky Guardian even shares some things in common with the Golden Guardian. However, it is a lot more stripped down than the aforementioned sets. It doesn't have as much build in the cockpit. It is a lot more sparse for parts, and it really makes sense considering that this is meant to be a flying battle machine. It's designed to be stripped down very quick, very fast. Hopefully, if you were to get hit at all, hopefully you're not expecting to get hit at all, because if you do, you are going to definitely go down one way or another. It has a nice use of ALEC Bionicle blades right here, as you can see, though I do wish that they had given at least one holdable weapon, because as it is, it feels pretty limited in the amount of attack ability. It has the 2 torpedoes on the sides, it has the missile up top, but once those run out, it doesn't really have any sort of ranged attack availability. So I wish they had included at least one other weapon, but it is still nice that they included the blades so that it has something in the hands. It is the, oddly enough, only use of a gray missile in any of the Exo-Force sets of this year. It is the same thin, streamlined version that we've been seeing this year, but all of the other ones have a red spine to it. This one has a gray one, and I'm not really sure why. I guess I appreciate LEGO not making it red, because the rest of this set doesn't really have any red in it, but LEGO has never really seemed like the type to not use a really strange Technic piece. Cough, cough. I'm sorry. Blue and red pins. The one major gripe that I have about this, and this really isn't a gripe on the actual figure itself, but instead the minifigure inside. So, in story, Rio did in fact build this battle machine. However, he never actually piloted it in comic, and he ended up passing it along to the character Hitami. And as many of you know, this ended up being her primary battle machine. And the fact that Rio is already in 2 sets this year, this being 3, whereas other than Hayato, every single other Exo-Force character has only ever been in 1 set, it would have been really nice if they would have included Hitami in this set. It really makes a whole lot of sense to include Hitami, and I really don't understand why they chose to do Rio. It's just kind of annoying, and it leaves kind of a stain on this particular model. It has always bugged me that it didn't include that figure, and I've often thought about just buying another figure and sticking her inside, but for the sake of these reviews, I have left Rio inside because according to the set, he is the one that is included. I do want to make one other mention. I was incorrect when I did my Iron Condor review. There is one other set that has waist articulation this year, and that is this one. Though I guess technically it's not one of the $15 sets. It's included with this larger set. I still wanted to make mention of the fact that yes, it in fact can rotate its waist, and that is appreciated considering the fact that most smaller sets do not include waist articulation. So, moving on to the big boy. This thing is cool. Very cool. It has a very interesting, and I'm actually going to go ahead and move this for you guys so you can see a little bit better. It has a very interesting Technic-built core. However, it still uses a fair bit of system in order to build this. It has some Technic squared off sections, and actually real quick, I might as well take this off because it's actually quite easy to do. It has this kind of core to it that uses these Technic beams going up and down and from side to side, and then it has these wheels down here to add a little bit of extra stability so that when it's rolling around it can move easy. I don't know if the larger Technic wheels are capable of spinning very well on their own. I know it's also included in the Bionicle Thornatus set. However, there's only one in black. I believe this is the only other set to include them in. My understanding of how they spin is not very strong, so I'm glad that they included some other wheels to give it this added movability. As you can see, it has some shock absorbing kind of core to it that, I don't know if shock absorbing, it has a bit of articulation so that it can shift back and forth to make turning movements. So that's nice that it doesn't just drive forward endlessly and you don't have to kind of force it to make turns. I'm gonna go ahead and reattach the side here. And hopefully that didn't spoil too much of what's to come. Surprisingly, it's actually really sturdy. Aside from the sides that sometimes can come popping open, the set actually holds up really well. When I was younger, I can attest to the fact that I would roll it down the stairs, I would ram it into things, and do a variety of other strenuous tasks on it that you'd kind of expect something of this size to break down to. But other than a few of the things like the fins on the back here and one or two other smaller pieces, it mostly holds up pretty well to use and abuse. Unfortunately, there is one downside. It doesn't really necessarily break as much as it comes popping open, and when I show you guys the functions, I will show you kind of what that means. But I do notice that a lot of the articulation and functionality gets in the way of other functionality and articulation. For example, these Zamor sphere launchers on the back here, I guess they're energy sphere launchers in the Exo-Force storyline, have a tendency to get in the way of just about every other functionality. And as cool as they are, I think I wish they would have either put them like off the top of these or just maybe not included them at all, because more often than not, they just kind of are annoying and get in the way. I really do like this color scheme. I think the green, the yellow and black, as well as the gray, all really go well together. The only exception to that is the transparent red is fine, but you'll notice there are a few other uses of just regular plain solid red, and it doesn't look good with the rest of it. It's not the right shade of red to be paired with this shade of green. You need something even a little bit brighter than this red, a red that probably I would say doesn't exist as an actual Lego part. And so I wish they would have just thrown it out. It makes it in some spots look like a little bit of a jumbled mess. So let's move on to the functions. And oh my goodness, there are a lot of them. So I already showed you the first, the fact that it can move and roll around. So that's a kind of the main functionality of the set. However, that is not where it ends. These sides right here open up to reveal a gigantic iron drone army. There's also another one on the opposite side. It kind of has this deploy feature, and my absolute favorite thing about this is, so this set has an insane number of minifigures. I'm going to just say right now, it has 11 altogether, 10 robots, and the one Rio minifigure. There are 3 Devastators, there are 6 Iron Drones, 3 on each side, and then Mecha 1 in the pilot seat right there. And it's just insane the number of minifigures that fit in here, but it can actually even fit more of them. In the past, I have stuck minifigures back here, and I think you can fit another set of 6 on each side, so for a total of 18, maybe you could probably cram in a couple more in the center there. You can have a total of 20 Iron Drones deploying. It's kind of like, honestly, Exo-Force's version of the Trade Federation MTT from Star Wars, and it is really cool how they give you the ability to carry so many Iron Drones, especially if you have them from other sets. I remember taking them off all my other sets and just cramming them into this giant thing, and then rolling it down the stairs, slamming it into the Sentai Golden Tower or the Sentai Fortress, and just having way too much fun. The other major functionality of this is the ability to kind of raise the head of the battle machine. So right here, you can see Mecha 1's cockpit, and it has the ability to be moved up and a little bit back, kind of giving it this turret appearance. So I'm gonna give you a view from back here. This is actually really similar to the same design as the Mars mission hypersonic what's it called? Hypersonic operations craft. That thing. And it had a similar ability where it had these Technic arms that would drop down instead of up, and it would have this little pad where you could land a small vehicle of some kind. And so I believe Mark Stafford, the creator of this set, also may have worked on some of the Mars mission sets. So that's very cool that he shares some similarities between them. Another thing that you can do, and this kind of reminds me of like a Cobra's head. It kind of fans out its hood, and then you can actually slide off these little jets, and the wings will fold down, and it's like a tiny little Devastator flying drone thing, and I really like that functionality. This set is packed full of functionality and has no shortage of it, and I really appreciate the amount of detail and effort that went into it. It is really a wonderful play set, and definitely a much better, more intimidating battle machine than the Striking Venom was, in my opinion. However, unfortunately, there's the example of what I was saying, how they kind of get in the way of each other. So those Technic pieces right there come in contact with the edges of this. So you actually have to pop them open again to get it to go down all the way. Honestly, I just wish they weren't even there. However, they are kind of fun. I do like the use of the flame swords in the back. You can push on them, and it launches a Zamor sphere. I'm not going to do it right now. You've already seen it. But I do believe that is pretty much the extent of the functionality of it. There is a lot in there. You can also open up these pilot spots. There's a Devastator down there, and there's Mecha 1 up here. In addition to that, one exciting thing that I really appreciate, even though Mecha 1 isn't missing his legs, these two Devastators are. However, down here on the sides. They are included, unlike the Striking Venom. So that is appreciated. And then, of course, the Blazing Falcon has the same articulation as most of the other sets in the hips, knees, ankles, shoulders, and wrist or elbow, whatever you want to call that. It also has the ability to move these wings. These little torpedoes can slide from side to side. The cockpit opens, and the fingers move, plus the waist. So you've got actually a fair bit of articulation and movement, once again, in some sets that just you don't expect to have a lot of articulation or functionality. You kind of expect the ones with the arms to be able to move a lot, but nope. This one definitely has a lot more articulation than is expected. Unfortunately, in story, despite the fact that this is an absolutely wonderful set, there really isn't a whole lot of inclusion story-wise for it. The Blazing Falcon got a fair bit of storyline. It was used by Hitami in the final book, alongside Takeshi in his Blade Titan, that final book. Its name escapes me, but it will be coming out shortly after this year's review gets done. I'll be doing it alongside the final year 2008, and arguably was stolen from Ryo. Ryo was building it, and he showed it off to the rest of the Exo-Force team, and then shortly afterwards, the robots attacked, and Ryo was actually knocked unconscious, and Hitami found him, but in order to get help, she actually had to take the Blazing Falcon and pilot it to go get help. And then Ryo ended up giving it to her, because he already had the Cyclone Defender, so she continued using this throughout the course of the next book, and was a very cool battle machine. It was meanwhile, the Mobile Devastator sadly had very little story content. I don't even know if it was even in like a full comic. It was designed as a follow-up to the Striking Venom. There was far less. There wasn't nearly as much build-up to it. The Striking Venom was kind of featured at the almost very beginning of the Exo-Force 2006 storyline, and there was kind of this continuous build-up to the story where they'd find out a new piece of information and another new piece of information, and eventually the robots actually sent it out to attack, and that Striking Venom attack was done over the course of like 6 comics. Meanwhile, this guy was just kind of there. It came up. It wasn't even the full team of Exo-Force that fought it. It was just the 4 core members plus Hitami that fought it, I believe. And they beat it pretty easily, and then it kind of ran away. Also, alternatively, there's kind of like 2 alternative stories to how the Mobile Devastator came about to be. Oddly enough, all the books were written by Greg Varsity except the final one. And reading it, you can barely even tell. The writing style is very similar to his. However, it is a different person writing. I don't recall the name, but it was a woman who wrote it. And at the end, there are actually 3 Mobile Devastators, and they carry Devastators, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. They came and they were going to attack the Golden City, but then we didn't even get to see the actual full attack. It was just Hitami and Takeshi running back to warn everyone, and then we were supposed to get a 6th book, but we didn't. So the story on this, unfortunately, is spotty, whereas I would argue the Striking Venom had a not super great set and a great story. This one had a fantastic set, but not so much a great story. So personally, though, if you're just interested in the toy, this one gets an absolute recommendation from me. Once again, LEGO knocked it out of the park with one of their larger play sets, and I really appreciate this set, and it's to this day one of my favorites. Not quite as fun as the Aero Booster, but definitely up there. I'd say it's in the top 5 Exo-Force sets designed. So with that, I thank you guys for sticking around for this extra long review, and I will be seeing you guys next week when I take a look at the entirety of 2007, looking at this guy alongside all the rest of them, and just talking about a few details that I may have missed in previous reviews, or just kind of overall thoughts where I recommend which sets I think you should buy depending on your level of interest in the series. So thanks, guys, again. I will see you guys next week. Bye! Today we're going to be moving around a bit because there's a lot going on here. In the front lineup, we've got the first